Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Don't leave us this way. That's the message from a group of high-profile Germans, including politicians, business leaders and footballers, who've signed a joint letter urging Britain not to quit the EU, declaring our door will always be open. And it turns out there are some rather surprising things they'd miss when we're no longer part of the EU family.
Britain, come back. Britain, come back.
Now we're leaving, some of our European neighbours are begging us, please don't go. The Dutch Reunion boys tried poetry, I think. And today the Germans have said it in prose, with politicians and others signing an affectionate letter to the Times, declaring they'll miss the legendary British black humour.
I am Jürgen.
Hello.
Yes, I'm from Germany. I feel I must apologize for the conduct of my nation in the war.
They'll mourn, quote, going to the pub after work hours to drink an ale.
It's as much a trademark of Britain abroad as John Bull.
Lovely. It's not everyone who can make a good cup of tea.
Not to mention that funny British habit of tea with milk. And even panto.
What is that dangling between your legs?
That's my weapon.
They'll miss it all. Oh, no, they won't. Will they? Well, earlier I spoke to Franziska Brandner, the German Green Party's spokesperson for Europe policy, and I began by asking her what she would personally miss about Britain when we leave the EU.
I will miss your humor, your sense of pragmatism, your sense for liberty, for freedom, for liberalism. That's all what I would miss, and a lot of many friends. So, you know, I would miss the UK terribly if you decide to leave.
You haven't mentioned the beer, the tea and the panto in that list.
Yeah, I would miss personally the beer. That's what I enjoyed most in the UK. And it's not just the beer, but, you know, the way of drinking it together and having a good time. That's so special, and that's really something that I would miss.
You had a lot of beer when you studied here in Oxford, did you?
Yeah, I did enjoy it. How do you say, you know, not too much, but I did enjoy it.
OK. But, I mean, we're not going anywhere. You know, Britain will continue to exist. You can come here and drink our ale and, you know, have our milky tea. That's still, you know, you can still travel here.
Yeah, of course, but we would miss your input into our future, and we would miss building our future together with you. And you make a very distinct contribution to Europe and to our decisions, and that's what we would miss.
I mean, there has been quite a bit of that black humour that you say that you'll miss on display in response to this letter today. I mean, a lot of people saying it was very warm and touching, but some people saying actually what the Germans will really miss is Britain paying the EU bills.
No, that's not the point at all. Germany is, of course, also a contributor, but that's not what we're looking at. No, seriously not. It's not about money. It's about building our future together, and we believe that we're better together and not alone. And, you know, I know it's your decision as British citizens, as British decision makers, and we can't take that decision for you. But in taking that decision, we just wanted to let you know that we would be happy if you stayed.
Is it a little bit late for this outbreak of friendship, though? Because, I mean, when, for example, the former Prime Minister David Cameron implored Angela Merkel to try and reform the EU, for example, on freedom of movement, she sent him away with a flea in his ear, and many people would say, well, that's why Brits voted to leave the EU.
You know, I think it's for us also to look back critically and say what mistakes we did, how could we better reform the EU together. And I think, you know, it's time for everybody at this moment of, you know, crisis and not clarity about where to go, to look back and see where did we do mistakes, what can we learn, and how can we go forward.
Is there a little bit of political panic in Berlin that, you know, there could be a no deal? And is that slightly where this letter's coming from as well? Or am I being too cynical there?
You know, hard Brexit, no deal would be difficult for everybody. It would be difficult for the UK. It would also hit Germany, of course, no question. But for me personally, it's rather that I see your country in a difficult situation. It almost gives me pain to see that there's, you know, so much division and so much, so much chaos to a certain extent. And that's what motivated us to say, you know, you have such difficult decisions to take, and at least we want you to know that in the back of your mind, you know, that we would miss you.
A love letter.
A love letter, yes.
Or perhaps there'll be a letter forthcoming from some British leaders to yourselves. Franziska Brandner, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.